That's pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. Elliott Shore Parks. James Seltzer with you. Day two. On the road to the Super Bowl. And we have football to react to on day two as we saw the Cowboys beat the crap out of the Bucs are horrible.
So I got a confession first.
Good. Lay, please.
So
I said lay. I meant lay it on me, but lay.
Whatever when you want to do, you know. I woke up at 4:40 this morning and couldn't fall asleep because I was so excited to record.
I don't believe that.
I swear on my life. I woke up at 4:40 and I'm like, all right, well, my alarm goes off at 6:20. And I immediately started thinking about, I wonder if the Bucs average more points than the Giants this year. And I managed to lay in bed for like 40 minutes and not get my phone out and look it up. But then I spent the last half hour just looking up stats.
Yeah, the Bucs were way worse than the Giants this year. They were a worse.
Well,
all season.
Well, here's
record included.
Here's what I would say to that. I think the Bucs were more of a disaster this year. Like they were more underachievers. I think the Giants are playing better now than the Bucs ever played this year,
without a doubt.
But I also think, and this has probably happened over the last 48 hours since the matchup has been, we know who the Eagles are playing. I think the Giants are being romanticized a little bit.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, from what they actually are. Like
they should be ecstatic against the Giants.
Yes,
there's no question.
And I think my initial reaction.
Now, I will say, I think the Bucs, I actually, like, of the three, the Bucs are the team I would have liked to play the
after
most,
seeing them last night.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that, and not just in my dream, like we talked about, where, it would be, like, storylines, Eagles fandom, the talking about it all, like, Giants-Cowboys to get to the Super Bowl, like, I mean, that's
it's pretty,
awesome.
Yeah.
It's dream stuff. Like, that's the dream right
now.
I
agree with that.
So, like, even outside of that, which is just fun, as I was watching the game last night, and I'm rooting against Dallas because Dallas sucks. It's one of my
we'll talk about that.
Core beliefs in life.
In a second.
But as they're just beating the crap out of them, I'm like accepting that Dallas is going to win this football game. And I do think that from the perspective of, at least I do think if one of those two teams is going to go into San Francisco and win a football game, it's going to be Dallas. So from that perspective.
Cool. Yeah, but here's the thing, and we're bouncing all around, which I'm happy about because I've been thinking about this.
We got all we can talk. Yeah, we don't like to say we don't have to make sure we hit things. We'll hit tomorrow. We got all the time in the world.
And by the way, shout out to everyone that watched the stream yesterday.
Shout out.
Yeah, went very well. Appreciate all the positive feedback.
Elliott needs it. Give him positive feedback.
Yes,
it makes him so happy.
It does. It really does. I'm not one of those people that's like, I don't read my mentions.
That wasn't a joke. I was being dead serious.
I read every single mention.
Yeah, I'm the one who doesn't read mentions.
Yeah, he's the one that doesn't even have Instagram.
Yeah,
but
among other things.
Here's what I'd say about the Cowboys last night. It really, really made me realize how lucky the Eagles should feel, and I will use the word lucky, that they got the Giants and not the Cowboys. The Cowboys last night turned in a performance, and the Bucs are not good. The Bucs are kind of the less motivated Giants in a way. Like, I don't think the Giants have more talent than the Bucs.
I think they do.
I think the Bucs just don't care.
And I know, well, it's not just don't care. It's that.
And their coaching is way worse.
The Bucs are one of the worst coach playoff teams I've seen.
Yeah, they're really,
They're like, I'm a Temple guy. You're a Temple guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Temple. Todd Bowles is a horrendous.
Yeah.
He is a all-time great defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So far in his couple stints we've seen, an all-time bad.
Yeah, he's a really bad head coach.
Like, Mike McCarthy's bad, and Bowles is significantly worse.
Well, the reason I think they're they're the Giants that don't try at all. Like, the Giants are the try-hard Bucs. The Bucs at least have some players, like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin,
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley is a fine running back. Okay, like Saquon Barkley is not gonna, I don't want to jinx it. Saquon Barkley is not going to be the reason the Eagles lose to the Giants.
Look, they're not going to lose to the Giants.
Yeah, well, that's my larger picture.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Let's get back to what you were saying. We'll get back to Cowboys, Bucs, because we're all over the place.
We're all over the place.
I do think that yesterday, my biggest takeaway from doing the radio show yesterday and just kind of feeling it out is the shocking amount of fear of the New York Giants that is out there.
It's just,
it's blowing my mind.
Again, people are romanticizing them. The Giants are a feel-good story. The Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL.
Well said.
For whatever you think of Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Focus has the Giants ranked, including their game against the Vikings, the best performance of the year by far, as the 29th best team in the NFL.
That seems aggressive.
And so, all right, maybe they're 17th, right? The Eagles are number 2. Yeah. And for as bad as the Eagles played going into the playoffs, they probably still played at a level in that Cowboys game that they lost in Dallas at a level that the Giants barely reached this season, right? So, yes, the Giants played well against Minnesota. The Cowboys last night played a game where I think had the Vikings beaten the Giants, right? And we're sitting in here,
you would be nervous
this morning. Yeah, it would be like, oh man, this is not good. Dallas is a good team. We saw last night Dak can play. For as good as Daniel Jones has been and improved, Dak is way better than Daniel Jones, right? And so the Cowboys you saw last night, they're a team where you would sit here and go, oh man, the Eagles better not come out rusty. The Giants are a team, they average like, I think 2.5 points in the first quarter. They're one of the slowest starting teams in the league. The only reason they were able to get the Vikings because the Vikings came out super slow. So I do think a quick start will be important. But again, the Giants, if you said 6 weeks ago, if you'd have told me when I started to get worried, when they lost the 2 in a row and when they weren't great against Chicago, if you would have told me their first round opponent or their first playoff opponent was going to be the Giants, I wouldn't have been worried because I've been like, okay, this is a team that they can beat and not play their best football against and get ready for the title game.
I mean, they beat them 48-22 and it wasn't that close. And Dallas Goedert didn't play in that game.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
So I know they were healthier, like Hurts was healthier and all that, but they are a way more talented football team.
And this is the other thing, and I'm sure you heard a lot of this yesterday too. This the Eagles are going to have to match the Giants' intensity, or the Giants are going to come in with nothing to play for, which is true. But we shouldn't just gloss over. The Eagles should also be expected to come into this game and play really hard and try really hard.
It's funny that phrase we use, it's nothing to play for, like it's this catch-all, like this team's going to play great thing. And we know it can, like being loose can. But you know what else is really awesome and really can help you? Having something to play for can really matter. And this Eagles team has a season in front of them and behind them where they have something real to play for. They are playing for a Super Bowl title. They are going into this knowing we are one of the teams that has a real chance to win the freaking Super Bowl. So it's like, yes, the playing loose can really help, but you can also help when you go in with a real motivating factor and you're going in saying, hey, let's go freaking win the Super Bowl.
I mean, they've been looking forward to this moment for, I don't know, 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
All season, dude.
But I'm saying almost all year it's been, we know that this season is starting in the second round.
That's my point. All year, even with the speeches that Hurts gives in the locker room and all that, like it's always felt like, hey, nice win. So much more to do. So much more to do. So much more to do. Like this has been the whole ethos of the whole season.
And it's leading up to this moment. Yeah. This is where
they'll be ready.
Really, since they were 8-0, we've both been like, they're going to be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Even when they lost 2 straight, neither of us were saying they're not going to be the 1 seed. The question was, how will they play in the playoffs? And I think that the Giants, I see a lot of people too. It's like, well, don't overlook the Giants. I don't know, man. I think that's being a little disrespectful to how good the Eagles have been to say don't overlook the Giants. The Eagles should be expected to win this game. Yep. And look, do they have to win it by 15, 20 points for it to be the type of win they should get? No. But I think it's way more likely they win this game by 14 plus than it is they lose the game.
Yeah. Look, well, let's look at this. And I'm opening the Bet Parks app. Download the Bet Parks Casino and Sports. We have, all season long, we've been telling people to download it. Right now is like the time.
Yes.
It hilariously enough went through the whole weekend. I bet so much money this week, like more than I ever bet.
A lot of shekels.
I was talking like a $5 guy.
I was going to say like $7.
I made a $10 bet. It was pretty great.
Wow, you were getting wild.
And I after the whole weekend, came out $13 up.
Look at you.
And it was the most fun I've ever.
Look at you.
Like I essentially spent negative $13 to have like 1,000 times more fun this weekend than I would have.
I mean, it makes the games way better. We say it all the time.
It just makes it so much better as I open the app, and I'm opening it for a reason. I'm saying this for a reason, but download the app in the App Store, Google Play Store, at betparks.com. Use our promo code GoBirds. That's GOBIRDS to get your bet money back, $750 back in site credit.
There it is.
If you lose, which is crazy. But here's the point I'm trying to make, that as you're talking about, like everyone's like, oh, the Giants. Like, do you think Chiefs fans are like, oh, the Jags, oh, the Jags, oh, the Jags? No, right? Like, they're like, oh, it's the Jags. Like,
Yeah.
a nice story, nice win there.
Well, even forget Chiefs fans. Nationally, do you think anybody's like, oh,
Exactly.
the Jags have a chance
No one.
to win?
No,
yeah.
Right? And the Chiefs are an 8.5-point favorite against Jacksonville. And the Eagles are a 7.5-point favorite against the Giants. Like, that should tell you something. How the Eagles as a team are viewed by the people who know what they're freaking talking about, like Vegas, like that they are only a 1 point less of a favorite than the Chiefs over the Jag, which everyone on the planet is like, there is a 0% chance that whatever happens, the Chiefs are not losing that football game. It should be the same feel about the Eagles. Like, we should be talking about this game similarly.
Yes.
Like, I think the Giants are probably slightly better than the
Well, and the
Giants.
Chiefs have won playoff games, which would be a difference.
Right.
But your point still holds.
Right. It probably should be 1 point difference, but it's 1 point.
Right. No, I agree with that. I also think a lot of the concern I'm hearing, and I'm happy we're doing this every day, obviously, for a lot of reasons.
Too. This is really fun.
But it's also good to be able to.
I'm getting up earlier a little bit.
I know. Look at you.
Not even fair. I'm gonna have to get up like way earlier soon. So probably
it's a
not
good
a bad
start.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
But I think a lot of the concern people have is really about the Eagles, and they're projecting it onto the Giants.
That's a great point.
If you're concerned,
because the Giants played so well, we saw the Giants just win a playoff game, be like, oh, look at the Giants, and then the Eagles' concerns, it's like blossoming together.
And real quick, the Giants did play well. They were also one of the most penalized teams in the league over the weekend. You know, I looked this up.
They played a bad football
They played
team.
a really bad
Like a
team,
legit
right?
bad
They
team.
dropped a key pass on third down that like should have sealed the game, right? So again, they played well.
Well, it is funny.
Let's not act like they went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs by 20.
It is funny because the two teams we hate, the NFC East teams, and shout out to the NFC East.
Yeah, 3 out of the 4.
I saw someone tweet this, and I'm not 100% sure it's true because it wasn't like a major source, but this is only the second time in the history of football that the Final Four has had 3 from the same division. The NFC East apparently in 1992 is the only other time it happened. So if that's true, that's like pretty astounding.
Yeah, from the least.
And 1990 was the earliest time it could happen, obviously, but still that's pretty wild. But it was frustrating because we watched 2 games, and I was fine with the Giants winning because I wanted to play them, so I was like okay with it. But that Slayton drop is the kind of thing that should lose you a play.
Yeah,
like user. And then last night, freaking the funniest thing that's happened all season: the kicker misses 4 extra points in a row, and of course it just doesn't matter. But that's the kind of stuff where like that should matter. Like you should not be allowed to miss 4 extra points in a playoff game and it not come back to bite you.
I mean, the 4 missed extra kicks was one of the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I think it's the funniest.
Like 1 was like, oh, that's wild. 2 was like, this is unbelievable.
3 was like, I've never seen this
before.
Yeah,
4, it's like this. Like again, I think
like a bit. It was like this a bit.
I think players should be allowed to gamble on sports, but that's a moment where you're like, okay, maybe he bet on the game.
Point shaving.
Yeah, I mean, 4 is insane. They weren't going to cut him at halftime, obviously. But I think it's the closest I've ever felt to being like, I would kind of.
I can't believe you let him kick the
like,
5th. I knew he made it, but like, go for 2.
Well, you almost have to at that point.
Like,
you're up so much. You're like, well, what's crazy is he missed one in the last game. So it was 5 straight. Yeah. I, honest to God, I mean, this won't surprise anybody. But if you gave me 5 extra points in the NFL, I have zero doubt I would make at least 1.
I would make one of them.
Yeah, just on dumb luck.
I can kick. I'm not like bad. Like I was like 3rd in that field goal competition. You won or 4th when I went for the Eagles.
I was 1st. Yeah,
I know you were, dude. All right, Jake. You don't have to that was the
twice.
Whole point I get it. We get it, buddy. We get it. I only did it once. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm just kind of shocked at how nuts people have gone with this Giants thing. But the Maher thing, I think it was the funniest thing that happened.
Well, but the other funny thing about
it was the best part of the game too. As sad as that was, the game was horrible. It was like watching it. Like I was more excited for the next PAT attempt than I was for anything else.
Oh, same. That way. Yeah. Same. I mean, even Kristen was like, waiting for the next kick. But what was it? Oh, the thing about the kicker missing all the extra points is it does put into perspective a little bit how big of a deal it is that the Eagles have a clutch kicker when we talk about their special teams.
Yeah.
For as much as the returns can be problems and they don't really do anything exciting when it comes to them actually returning a kick or a punt, they do have a kicker that, I can say pretty confidently is not going to miss 4 extra points in a game.
Yeah, I would
I think you would feel confident with him kicking
big kicks when it matters.
Any kick, yeah. But
and the special teams in general has been better since that was like a problem for us, and they've been okay.
Let me ask you this: if the Vikings had beat the Giants and the Cowboys played that exact game last night, what would your concern be?
My concern would be that, because look, I've always agreed that, I think it's actually nice in a way when you look at this final 6 that there have all season long, we've talked about it, there have been 6 best teams. Like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the Eagles, the Niners, the Cowboys.
Yeah,
they've been
those
the
have been the
sixth
best six,
best all season.
Yeah, I agree.
Without a doubt for us, right?
Mhm.
Like we've at no point do we think anyone was better than those teams, and they're all here.
Yeah.
So that doesn't always play out that way. There weird stuff happens, and I do like that. So I think my nerves, and I do think the Eagles are better than the Cowboys, but I would come out of that game last night. I still would say like my biggest takeaway last night was not how great Dallas was. It was how bad Tampa is.
Was.
But I would like, I can't say Dallas played bad. I mean, they were solid, but my big takeaway would be concern about the fact that a talented team looked good for the first time in a month or whatever. So it'd be like, all right, that's a little concerning. I wouldn't be like scared they're going to lose, but like I'd definitely be more concerned than playing the Giants.
So two things. One, I think in a weird way, and I just thought of this, the Cowboys coming out last night and playing so well should maybe alleviate some people's concerns and concerns that I've had, but people that are like really concerned about this game, that, the Cowboys played the worst of all the teams in the final game. I mean, they lost to Washington on the road and Dak looked terrible and they tried, right? So they looked
bad the weeks before. I mean, the Tennessee game was bad.
Right. Like, Jacksonville, they lost to. So the fact that they were able to come out and just handle it,
they limped in, and then
is a a good counter to my style points thing, right? I mean, they looked fine, but I will be honest and say, if it was Eagles Cowboys on Sunday, I would be petrified of that matchup. I think the Cowboys are so good when they play well. Like, and again, that's a big if because they're inconsistent. But I also think Dak winning that playoff game last night and playing as well as he did is a big deal. It's a big like monkey off his back type of thing. Like he went out and he played really, really well. I mean,
Dak was the best part of the game for them.
Dak was unbelievable.
And again, like it's hard to tell how good like that Tampa Bay O-line might be as bad as anything.
Yeah, again, Tampa doesn't care. They're not trying.
Tom Brady was as much a foot out the door.
Yeah, and even Todd Bowles. They fired Leftwich. I saw a report again.
They fired him already?
All right. I saw a report from a Bucs reporter. It's not been like Schefter or Garrett Follow, but that they're going to fire Leftwich.
So what I mean, like we talk about that coaching, where also let's be fair. GOAT and all that. Tom Brady was horrible.
He was really bad.
He was as bad as certainly in a playoff game. And there were stats of his rookie year where he had the no score in the first half. Like, I don't remember that game. That's the worst I ever remember in my life seeing Tom Brady play. He
looks afraid. I mean, it doesn't matter now, but he looks afraid to get hit.
Yeah, he did.
Like the interception was really bad.
Yeah. The interception was horrendous.
The Eagles would have beat the Bucs.
The Eagles would have throttled.
Yeah, they would have beat.
It would have been the same.
But again,
it would have been the same. I don't know if they win by more or less or whatever, but they win in the range of 31-14 or whatever it was.
Right. So the Giants are better than the Bucs again, but I want to just keep emphasizing this for everyone that watched a game last night, including you and me, and was like, oh my God, the Bucs are a disaster. The Giants are closer to the Bucs than they are the Eagles.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Right? Like
probably, yeah. I agree. I think the Giants are definitively better than the Bucs, like without a doubt.
So I think they're better because they're
the Bucs
better.
Are horrible.
But I think they're a better coach
team.
I
should have I'm mad at myself for not. And here's where I'll cop to it. My hatred of Dallas, my loathing
overshadow your.
I couldn't think properly about the game. Like it was so obvious Dallas was so much better than Tampa Bay. Like they were just so much more talented than Tampa Bay.
I did pick it.
You did. Credit to you. Shouts. You had a better weekend than I did. I won the first game and lost the rest.
I think I went 2 and 5.
I won one. I hit the first one and lost the rest. I could not have had a worse weekend from that perspective. But I think that I think Tampa Bay is like uber bad. Like let's put it this way. I think the Tampa Bay Bucs were, wait for it. Make sure I'm saying, yeah. I think easily the worst team in the playoffs this year. I think Seattle is definitively better. I think Miami's better, maybe with Skylar Thompson and certainly with Tua.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Bucs were the worst team in the playoffs this year. They were record-wise, unequivocally. They were the only under.
I would agree with that. I guess the point
they went 8-9 in division with Carolina, Atlanta, and freaking and New Orleans.
Yeah.
Like none of those teams are the worst team ever, but they're all bad.
They're all bad. Yeah. I agree with that. Now the Saints did beat the Eagles, but it was with
Gardner.
Yeah. Now I guess what I'm trying to say comparing the Giants to the Bucs is the only difference to me is the coaching. Now that's a big difference, right? But the talent itself, I don't think is that different.
But it doesn't matter. I mean,
but I'm saying it matters in terms of the Giants are coming in,
but the Giants are really well coached. And they're really like tight. Like I know they may have some penalties, but in terms of like scheme, in terms of playing hard for their coach, in terms of playing for each other, in terms of playing together. Like that's what makes a good football team.
Yeah.
Like they are way better than the Bucs.
I agree that they're better than the Bucs. I agree with you on that.
Like I think let's put it this way: neutral field, I would make the Giants a 7-point favorite over the Bucs, or a 6-point favorite over the Bucs.
Yeah.
I would make
that.
the Eagles like a 10 to
But,
or a 12-point favorite.
But I think that
That's
the
enough,
comforting part for Eagles fans should
probably
be
too high. It's 6 for the Giants.
What makes the Giants great is things that in a certain degree are within the Eagles' control, right? Effort,
Yes.
trying hard, right? Like the Giants are not going to win this game on Saturday on talent, right?
No,
whereas there's a better chance that Mike Evans makes an insane catch or whatever. So that's my thing. And this is another.
I think that way you could combat that, though, and I get your point. I think that Tampa Bay is so deficient in certain areas that it drops their overall talent.
Yeah.
Like their O-line, like you just can't, especially with a quarterback who's not going to take hits and can't move around. You're just not going to win games.
Yeah, I mean, they looked awful, like awful. The other thing I had, and I'm sure we'll have to wrap this up soon, but just quickly.
No worries.
I'm not trying to diminish Brian Daboll because I think Brian Daboll did a very good job this year. Obviously, I think he, if not is the coach of the year, he is right there with the Shanahan, Sirianni, all the guys we talked about. Doug, really good year for it. But I also think we should put into perspective what Brian Daboll did. Brian Daboll took a really bad roster and has them where they are, and that's impressive. He did not turn them into a top 10 offense. He did not turn them into a top 10 team. He took a bad roster, got them in as the 6th seed, went 4-5-1 in the final 10 games. And,
really like 4-4-1 that last game.
Fair, 4-4-1. Yeah. But I guess, like, I think there's this perception out there that, Daboll is such a better coach than Sirianni, or what Daboll did is so much more impressive than what Sirianni did. Sirianni has a better roster, for sure. Sirianni also turned that roster into a top, whatever team you want to say on the year, 1, 2, 3.
And also did what Daboll did this year, last year.
Correct. Did what Daboll did last year. But I don't think Daboll did a better coaching job than Sirianni in the way that, yes, they started at different levels. Like Sirianni started here and Daboll started here talent-wise.
And Sirianni won 5 more games in it.
Yeah, Sirianni also ended up here, and Daboll ended. This is a nice part of the video, right? But I'm saying, so yes, what Daboll did was impressive, but he didn't turn the Giants into world beaters. Sirianni turned a really good roster into a really good team, right? Daboll turned a bad roster into an average team. The Giants are an average team. They try hard. They're well coached. For what it's worth, they are the 5th or 6th most penalized team in the league, which I thought was a little surprising considering how often we talk about how cleanly coached they are. They do get penalized a lot. They get penalized a lot on the road as well. So yes, Daboll's been awesome, but I don't think this over the week where like narratives can really, they get blown out of proportion. Daboll did not do a way better job, if even a better job than Sirianni this year. I think at best, it's like one did a 10, one did a 9, and you can pick and choose.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think those two and Shanahan, and I think Doug did a great job too. But for me, it's Shanahan, it's Daboll.
But I think Shanahan did a way better job than Daboll.
Like I've said I would give it to Shanahan. If I had a vote, I would go Shanahan, Sirianni, Daboll. But it's really close between the three. And I agree. I think Sirianni and Daboll are razor thin. Like, I think they both had great years. And I agree with you. There is this perception that, like, the Giants have the coaching edge. Like, no, they don't. Yeah. Like, I just think, like, the Giants have really good coaching, and that'll matter. But the Eagles have really good coaching, too. Well, and the Eagles roster is just light years back.
So let's say you're someone out there that thinks Daboll's the better coach. Let's say Daboll's at 1 to 10.
He might be. Look, Daboll might be the better coach.
He might be. But let's say Daboll's at 10. Sirianni is at worst, if you want to be, like, super critical of him, an 8.5, 9, right? The Eagles roster is a 10, and the Giants roster is like a 4, you know?
Like a 5 or 6.
Well,
I know what you mean. I get your point. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I just think, look, if they lose the game on Saturday, in my opinion, it won't be because they're outcoached. It'll be because the team just completely, I don't know if we can curse live.
Daniel Jones with a worse roster coming into the link for a playoff game. Like, this is
right.
Like bottom line podcast. Like, you're a bottom line guy. You're a quarterback guy. It's Jalen Hurts versus Daniel Jones at the link. Like, I mean, come on, right?
So, think about if a month ago we would have said the first round opponent is going to be the Giants.
Yeah, well,
nobody would be worried.
I've seen many people do this, and it's very true. But it's like if you had told us at the beginning of the season, your likely path to the Super Bowl is both games at home, Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy. You're like,
can you imagine?
We're going to the Super Bowl.
It would be
so cool.
It would be a lot.
I can't believe we're going to the Super Bowl. Did everyone else like get hurt for the season?
Right.
Like, there's the only 3 quarterbacks left. Like, what happened?
Well, first I'd be like, who's Brock Purdy? But
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, or I'd like pretend I knew who he is. But the other thing that I've thought I've had since last night and then this morning laying awake is they really can't mess this up.
Oh, they have to win this.
This is
like we do the must win thing on the side a lot. Like, and obviously it's a must win because like
right.
playoffs, but forgetting like it is the most must win game
it is
that we've had in a long time.
Like,
this is imperative that they win. They don't have I need them, and we'll get into it. But like, I will be disappointed with the outcome of the season. We've talked about this many times, and we got to wrap. But like, the idea that Hurts and Sirianni and what they've become like this season, no matter what happens, is in the big picture, macro, a success no matter what. Like, it just is because of how important that is for the franchise. But like with the way this season is played out, I will be disappointed if they don't make it to the Super Bowl just in the moment.
Yeah.
But if they lose in the NFC Championship game, we'll be able to rationalize that and get past that and say, all right, this was still a
for sure.
year to be proud of. If they lose this game, it's a disaster. And this whole season is we will look back at this as a disaster season, not as a great season.
I don't think it's a stretch to say in all our times, and hopefully it's many, 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 many years in the future, the Eagles might never have an easier path to the Super Bowl.
That's a really good point.
Both games at home.
You know what? I love that take. What a take.
They might never have an easier path.
Like, they have to be the 1 seed to even compare, right?
Yes.
And then, like...
And you have to get the Giants, who, again,
Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy.
Every team at this stage of the playoffs will have won a playoff game. So, the Giants are probably one of the worst teams we've seen win a playoff game in the last whatever many years. You have the Giants, who you demolished earlier in the year, you're familiar with, aren't super talented, are rebuilding. Let's be real. They're a rebuilding team at home. It's a must win. And then the next game, look, the 49ers and the Cowboys are good teams for sure. They're not like, world beaters. They're not the Chiefs. They're not the Patriots with Tom Brady. They'll never get an easier path. So I agree with you in the way, if they beat the Giants and then they lose in the championship game, you found your quarterback, you have your head coach, it's a good year. This is the path. They cannot earmuffs, right? They can't fuck this up. Like, this is what it is. This game that's being handed to you, and you earned the 1 seed, but getting the Giants is such a golden opportunity. They can't mess it up.
All right, you got any final thoughts?
I have a money-making idea.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. That's one.
Well, it probably won't make any money because it's a podcast. But all right. I think a great podcast would be audio of TV shows, like of episodes of Seinfeld, episodes of The Office, and not like narrated, the literal audio. Yeah. So it's quiet if no one's talking, because I like to fall asleep to TV shows, me and Kristen do. Mm-hmm. And the tough thing is the light, right? Yeah. But I like the audio of listening to Seinfeld.
I think a lot of people do.
So I think a good podcast would just be the audio of TV shows. Like, we like falling asleep to the Dateline pod because it's just the audio of Dateline. Yeah. Maybe this is a thing. I haven't looked for it. But
it probably is. I'm sure there's a way you can turn the screen off, but I'm sure certain TVs,
I could figure it out.
I'm sure there are. It's a good idea. I get your point. Ultimately, it's not a money making idea for anyone who owns other than it would only be for like NBC.
And what are you gonna charge for it?
Well, the point is no one else has that. Like, it's all copyrighted content. So you or I could not make money off this.
At least
idea.
Not legally.
Legally, right? I think you get shut down really quick.
Yeah, I think you get caught pretty quick.
But I get it. Like, I don't see TV on, but I understand. I used to, and I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
For make the big people who have lots of money more money. It's a really good idea.
Hopefully, someone's listening. I'll make it happen.
All right. My final thought, and I'm going to try and come with a take.
I know.
I'm every single day. So I'm going to give you a parental one today.
Okay.
Would you prefer a Zoe joke or a parental lament?
They're both so tempting.
Yeah, they are. You'll hear both. That's the beautiful thing in this round. Assuming the Eagles don't screw it up, they'll all get said eventually.
All right, let's go with the joke today.
Okay. This is in case you don't have a 4-year-old.
Yeah. In case you're not aware.
If you've had a 4-year-old, you're gonna laugh and be like, "Oh, I remember that." If you don't have a 4-year-old yet, or you have a young kid, get ready.
Okay.
This is the type of
humor.
Hold on.
Look at this here.
It started just.
Zoe's gonna be mad you're messing the joke up.
Oh, I'm not messing.
The delivery better be.
Trust me, I'm nailing this joke. All right. Ready? It's a knock joke.
Okay. All right.
Classics. You ready?
Yes.
This is a Zoe Seltzer joke, a classic. Ready? Knock.
Who's there?
Buttface.
Okay. Buttface who?
Buttface went to the Buttface store to get a Buttface carrot, and then he ate the Buttface carrot.
That's just very good. It's well done by Zoe.
These are the types of jokes that are in my house
I think that what was good about the joke is how many times she said Buttface.
Yeah. And then the best is she goes Buttface carrot, and then she's like, and then he ate the butt face. Apparently. It was like the best part of the
So
joke.
it's not really it's a knock knock joke, but it's more a short story. It's like knock knock, who's there? A short story about butt face.
we're applying it for all the
Yeah.
like the Hugo and all
It's
the
like
short
a
story
what are
ones,
like
yes.
the Odyssey? What was that called? It's like a short story. It's like a poem. I don't know.
I think you nailed it.
A ballad.
A ballad, a sonnet.
Sonnet. It's a sonnet about butt face by Zoe Seltzer. Yeah. Should publish it. There's the money making idea right
See,
there.
there it is. Yes,
Yeah.
the book of knock knock jokes from Zoe Seltzer.
Exactly.
All right, or knock knock sonnets.
Zoe Seltzer.
All right.
Butt face.
We'll be back tomorrow because that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Day 3 of the Super Bowl coming tomorrow. So until then, he's Elliot James. Boom.
And this bad boy.
Thank you.